You don't listen to her, that will accumulate, and you'll listen to her in divorce court. Like, you will eventually listen. And at some point, you'll pay for the privilege of doing so, right? Because there'll be other people involved. And then the backlog will be so high that you might never escape from it.
Why don't men like to listen?
Well, often because the insufficiencies are pointed at them. You know, and sometimes, especially if the woman, let's say, and this can go both ways, let's be sure about this, but we might as well revert to the stereotypes. And I think it's fair because women are more threat sensitive. So they're more likely to bring up problems. Now, that's the disadvantage is they bring up problems that don't exist because that's a false positive. But the advantage is they bring up problems before you're sensitive enough to see them. And so this is very important if you think about the role of women is the woman is closer to the infant than you. Okay, so you're, doing whatever the hell you're doing. You're concentrating on your career. You're not, especially when the infant's under a year old, you're a step removed now, and good, you can be dealing with the external world, but she's concentrating on the little kids. And one of the things you want to hear from her is what the hell's wrong with the kids before you're wise enough to see it. Now, the price you pay for that is she might be shorting out about things that don't exist. So, and this is especially true if your wife is high in neuroticism, and it could be true if the husband is too, but as I said, that's the more stereotypical situation. So why listen? To get to the signal. Now, will she get to the signal? Yes, although she might not be very good at that, and it might take a lot of listening. But if you listen long enough, she'll get better and better at it until she'll get really good at it. And then the time between the emergence of the problem and the solution it'll collapse to the point where it's virtually immediate. Now that's a very high level of mastery. That can take a very long time. But then, you also want to put forward to your wife and yourself the proposition that you're better than you are, which is, well, I get the problem, I can solve it. It's like, no, you probably don't get the problem. And even if you did, it isn't necessarily the case that you could solve it. And so you have to put up with the fact that you're going to have to be dragged through the mud because she's going to point to, maybe her kid's upset because you're a tyrant. And you probably are a tyrant to some degree, clomping around, overconfident and all that. And so she's going to poke you. Well, maybe this is how you're stupid, and maybe this is how you're stupid, and maybe this is how you're stupid. Long list of potential ways and actual ways you could be stupid. So you have to listen to that. Now, your wife has to act in good faith. One of the things that Tammy and I did when we first got married, because I thought a lot of this through before we got married. I said, look, if we're going to do this, you have to tell me the truth. I don't care what it is. I'll tell you the truth, but you have to tell me the truth. I don't care what the truth is, but it has to be true, right? And so without that, you get nowhere. And you can't trust your partner either. And so your partner has to be all in. That's why you have a marriage vow. Because the marriage vow is basically this. This is the vow. No matter what you tell me, I won't run away. And that's a bitch of a vow, man. Because when someone unveils their whole heart, they unveil themselves all the way down to hell. It's not pleasant. It's awful. And so they need to know that you will not run away. And that's a vow because what do you know? Look, the person's always going to be thinking, always, if you really knew who I was, you wouldn't love me. You wouldn't be with me. And hey, fair enough, because people are full of snakes. And if all those snakes were revealed, perhaps the logical thing to do would be to run. And so then you might say, well, why not run? It's like, well, you want to run from everyone for the rest of your life? You want to forgo the advantages of a permanent relationship? And you're full of snakes too. So